So now, once we have created the connection between our AWS account and our Azure account, if we come back here to our VPN and try to refresh, so as you can see here, that the first channel is up, means that the connection is established successfully. So we have to wait to see, we have to wait in a few minutes or a few seconds to see if the other channel will run as well. So if we keep running that, sorry, so if the connection is not established, all what you have to make sure for is the configuration, and then the IP address here, right? This IP address is the same as here. We check for the other one, is the same as here. So in the same time, let us go and create our first Azure VM. So what I'm going to do is create our Azure VM that will have our Ansible server that will reside in a private subnet. And as long as this Azure VM will not have a public IP address, I will use the Bastion to connect to it. So if you still remember that here in my previous videos, that when I create VMs in private subnets, when I like to interact with them, I use another EC2 instance. I call it the Bastion to interact with them. So Azure is already created for us this resource called the Bastion that enable us to interact with our resource. So the first thing that I'm going to do is launch Azure VM. So here I will look for machine, for virtual machines, and then we click here, create a machine. Then I will scroll down here, and in resource group I will choose my resource, and for the machine I will call it Azure, or sorry, Ansible server. We scroll down here, and then here what is the way that I want to interact with my instance, either or the authentication type that I want to use, either using the SSH public key or the password. Me, I prefer to use SSH public key, but as long as that we will use a Bastion, we don't need either of them. So what I will do here is to public inbound port is none, but here must choose the password option. So I will call it Azure user, and then password that I will authenticate with or by using the Bastion. Networking, we'll scroll down here, right, and then choose the networking. For the networking, I will put it on my subnet, private subnet one that is already choose. And for the public, I will not create a public IP address for my Azure or my Ansible server because I don't want no one to interact with. And scroll down here, I will go with the default, advanced for the tag, then review and create. And then I create my first virtual machine. So in the meantime, I will create a Bastion to interact with my Ansible server because it's reside in a private subnet and my Ansible server does not have a public IP address, so there is no way to interact with only if we use the Bastion. I will scroll down here. They will call it Bastion. And by default, sorry, what I have to do is to create subnet for my Bastion before created. So let me create a new subnet in my virtual network and they call it Azure Bastion subnet. It must have this name. So go to subnets and then click on subnet to add new subnet and call it Azure Bastion subnet. Then give it 5. And they will save. So if I come back now here and go to Bastion, and create, give it a name Bastion. So by default it is selected, but it must to have this name, Azure Bastion subnet. And we'll create a new IP address, public IP address, then click on tags, review and create. So once our Bastion is created, can come back to the home and go to our virtual machines and click on our Ansible server VM, and we have to wait until the Bastion is deployed successfully because we will connect through it.